Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah Satnam.
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Bracha Rafael, and she's the editor of Galus Australis. We spoke with Bracha last week, getting her background as a young Jewish woman, and this has influenced greatly the way in which she's come to Galus Australis. That is the first online Jewish newspaper, was it, or magazine?
Jewish Affairs magazine.
Jewish Affairs magazine.
Yeah.
When did it start? How did it all get off the ground?
So it was founded in 2009, not by me, by a guy called Ant Frosch and his partner Rachel Sachs-Davis. And it was founded then to provide a platform for people's voices from the community to be heard directly. So I've described the journalism that Galus does as grassroots journalism. So rather than a journalist interviewing and then modulating the voices of their interviewees, Galus has always just approached people directly and asked them to write their stories or write about what their concerns are, and they've published that directly.
Directly?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there must be some rules as to some things.
Well, we don't publish defamatory content, or we try not to. We don't publish incitements to hatred. We don't publish material that is grossly offensive.
No.
But for the most part, we don't limit what goes up on the site by our own editorial positions.
Now, there was some sort of a drive behind that too, was to do with the way in which a lot of the news in the Jewish news was sort of Israel-based or overseas-based, at least. Is that?
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
One editorial line that Frosch and Co took was that we, not as a rule set in stone, but as a guiding principle, we don't write or publish a commentary on Israeli affairs. It's obviously a topic that, or perhaps not obviously, perhaps we can talk about that, but it's not it's a topic that most of the Jewish community in Melbourne feel strongly about and has something to say on, but we felt that that if we talk too much about Israel, we eclipse conversations that are pertinent to the Australian Jewish community, and we wanted to focus on that.
Just to digress a little bit there, we'll be talking about interfaith in a moment, but that's also something that perhaps impinges on other faiths as well, isn't it? Like Islam, for example, where if there's more reporting from overseas and all of the horrific things that are happening there, it takes the eye away from the realities of Muslim communities in Australia. Is it a parallel with that?
Yeah, I think you've said it really well, Norm. I think that all of those issues people care about for good reason, and people's feelings about them are very real and very visceral and sincere. But they are not often problems that can be solved by people over here talking about them at length, and there are problems over here that can be solved if we talk about them at length, and we at Galus want to give those problems time.
So do you have a base of regular contributors, or how would you become a contributor?
Just get in touch, editorial at galusaustralis.com. But we do have people who write for us regularly, or people who have written for us extensively in the past, who have they've now got this corpus of works that are in our archives.
I've had a look at your site, and there's quite a bit of commentary comes in on some of your articles, I notice. So there's quite a response from your readership. Is that fairly normal?
Yeah, that's normal, and we encourage that. That's the purpose of the site is for one person to put forward an idea, and for the community to hash it out and nut it out, and tease out of that solutions to problems that are facing us.
So, as an editorial principle, do you have meetings where you sit down and say, well, these are the key points, and you maybe try to get one of your regular writers to write an article on it? How does that generate itself?
Most of our content is a writer approaches us and they say, I have a topic I'd like to write about, will you run our article?
Okay.
We do solicit content as well. So I have a group of contributors whom I'm in touch with, and every month or every couple of months I'll say, here's a list of things I think I'd like to see an article about. Is anyone interested in writing one? But most of what comes to us comes from things that have members of the community care about and they'd like to talk about.
Yeah, so I noticed an article on kosher food, which is quite a lengthy article. That touches on, once again, jumping ahead to the interfaith component, that also impinges on halal, doesn't it? In the sense that they have a similar place in the psyche of a Jewish person and the psyche of a Muslim person. From a kosher,
to provide a kosher home, even if you don't keep kosher strictly in all areas of your life, is something that many members of the community will prioritise, and to prioritise that is going to be quite expensive. I think cost of living issues are something that, like across Australian media, we don't really talk about enough. And the way cost of living pressures are felt in the Jewish community, they're going to be felt in a specific way due to some particulars of the community, kosher being one of those particulars.
So there is a considerable cost factor, is there, with like the differential for
to buy kosher meat
kosher,
is something like 4 times the price.
Good heavens!
Of regular meat that you can purchase in the supermarket. So there's there are good reasons for that. It's a smaller market. It's a niche service. But the articles that we've run that talk about those issues are really just calling for the community leadership to look at, is this perhaps something that needs to be subsidised so that it is accessible to the rest of the community?
I wish you could subsidise time, then we wouldn't have to take a break. We're out of time. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. We're speaking with Bracha Rafael, and she's the editor of Galus Australis. Now, we're now moving into something which is a bit of a new hobby horse for you, I suspect, and this is interfaith.
Right. That's right.
Tell us about how you sort of came across interfaith, and then what Galus Australis really would like to do with that.
So I'll talk about me briefly, and that's just simply that as a younger person, I wasn't overly involved with interfaith. It always seemed a little bit contrived to me, and I only jumped into the interfaith projects and programs that are around late last year, and that I think came from me recognising that my life is going to be in Melbourne. Up until really last year, it could have been in any city in Australia. It could have been anywhere. But by that point, my career was settled in Melbourne. My husband's career was settled in Melbourne. We had property in Melbourne, and I was like, my children are going to grow up here. What kind of city are they going to live in? And I have a say in that, because everyone who lives here has a say in what their city looks like. And I want it to be a city that is diverse and that is harmonious. So that's why I got involved with interfaith. What I think, or rather what we want to do with Galus Australis is, I think we're pretty satisfied with our track record of what we've done in the Australian Jewish media landscape. We're happy with what we've done, and we're sort of ready to go elsewhere. And where we'd like to go is we'd like to go multi-faith and multi-ethnic, and we'd like to talk about Australia and Australian identities and Australian challenges through the lens of faith and ethnicity.
Right. That's so. How are you going to bring about that lens to be focused? What are the components of it?
What we're doing is we're building an editorial team that's larger than just us. So us is myself as editor and my colleague Alex Fine, editor-in-chief. We're building an editorial team that will have section editors based on the 5 main faiths that Australia identifies in its census. So the Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and as well as Buddhism and Hinduism.
Okay.
We would also like to have a section editor for Indigenous affairs, because
Yes, of course.
you can't really talk about diversity in Australia without talking about Indigenous affairs. And these 6 sections we envision will solicit content and produce content much in the same way we have done at Galus in the past, which is through extended networks asking people to tell their stories directly. So to keep that grassroots, user-driven nature, to keep it thus feeling a little bit amateurish. But what we lose from professionalism, we gain from authenticity.
Absolutely, yes. That's very promising. So what you're talking about then would be, say, your editor Buddhist editor. He would be networking into the Buddhist community and trying to draw the same as you've been drawing from the Jewish community over these
That's right.
years.
That's exactly right.
And so have you got people interested in doing
We
that?
do, yeah. We have a really, it's not complete, but we have a team that's emerging that is really exciting, spectacular writers and editors stepping forward from the Muslim community and the Christian community. So we're growing, we're working on it.
Yes.
We're working as well on funding this project, because we envision it as a professional endeavour in that sense, that it's going to be very difficult to ask people to give the time it would take to build this project without being able to give them a salary as well. So that's one of the challenges we're facing and solving at present.
Yes, and it actually brings into play your observation that you felt that interfaith, perhaps as it's been practiced up to this point, was somewhat superficial, or I forget the word you used for it, but it was quite appropriate. Whereas with this, you're actually going to be inviting grassroots people to express their opinions. Now, what's happening there if the issue becomes contentious? If there's a contentious issue, you could find that Galus would become an arena for much bloodshed, figuratively speaking.
Well, we hope that no blood is shed in the course of confronting issues that we face collectively here in Australia. We do envision a sort of two spaces on this future outlet that will exist. We envision a constructive space,
yes,
where everyone comes forward, and they come forward from their respective seats of identity, and discuss how the problems that they're facing, the issues that they're facing in society, and we collectively together try to work something out, some way to move forward. We also think it's really important to give people space to be angry.
Absolutely.
And so we have a deconstructive space, a gloves off sort of.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm upset about this. Let me be upset. And so we hope that having an outlet for that, but also a place where emotion and passion can be used to build something good, is how we will avoid the bloodshed.
Yeah, and that's fascinating. It's a beautiful concept, and something which sort of spins off from that, in my mind at least, is that maybe the arenas of like meetings, if you like, where issues can be like at this moment there'll be people writing, but sometimes it makes a difference to have people eyeball to eyeball around a table or in a room. Would you think that might? That would be a
fantastic outcome to transition from, or in and out from the online space into the real world and back again. that would be ideal.
Yes, which then comes back to the observation about interfaith, and many of us are involved in interfaith and have been for a long time, and this issue of maybe people just putting on the cardboard image, not really actually breaking through, is in fact a cogent observation. With this, it'll be hard not to break through. If you're actually writing and you're being brought into a context where you have conversation, that's exciting.
I'm really excited about it. The main thing is, the starting point is, we want to be comfortable living with difference. We're not trying to wash them away, and we're not trying to pretend we're all the same, but we want to acknowledge difference and be comfortable with it.
And we're no different. We are subject to time, and we're out of it. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Bracha Rafael, and she's the editor of Galus Australis. I had a look at Galus Australis' website, as I said to you before, and I noticed that there was something there about GLBTI, that there was some sort of a function happening. How does that come about? Are you taking a drive down that pathway, or what?
So the function isn't something that we've organised. It's something that's been coordinated by the JCCV, the Jewish Communities Council of Victoria.
Yes.
And it's in discussion with David Marley, their executive director, he said it's something that's been in the works for a long time. For 4 or so years now, they've had a social inclusion division that's workshopped and thought through ways the Jewish community can confront issues that that affect their GLBTI constituents. So in 2013, the JCCV signed on to the No to Homophobia campaign, and that was a state government initiative. And they've been working away in the background for a long time on how to tackle and also prevent homophobia in the Jewish community. So we reported on it really as a news piece, but we reported on it and promoted it because it's something that we think the community needs to talk about, and we're very proud to be part of it.
Yeah, so in the Jewish context, GLBTI, where's that stand? Does this be a hard place and a soft place, wouldn't there?
That's not a bad way to put it. There's a spectrum. So I think it's safe to say that everybody in the Jewish community, barring a few, barring a very small minority, would agree with me when I say that there's no law in the Torah that says you need to be homophobic. There are passages in the Torah that prohibit particular acts, and how that's interpreted, and how that plays out in a person's daily life. There's a range there, and there's a spectrum there. Yeah. And therefore how that translates into how we welcome or do not welcome people into our synagogues, into our schools. Yeah. There's a spectrum there as well. But certainly we don't have to be homophobic. We don't have that obligation.
No, that's right. I think that's right. Just on the issue of the whole term homophobic, I find that a confronting term, actually, because what it does is it closes down on someone who just wants to ask a question about GLBTI, just out of not knowing. They're not for fear of anything, they're not afraid of anything, they just want to know, and which opens the point of informing. Do you have a pathway for informing people? I
think it's really important at any point to be conscious of goodwill, so to be conscious of coming to an issue with goodwill, and to be conscious that if someone has asked a question that is offensive on some level, if goodwill is present, then it's probably then don't scare that person off. And I encounter this a fair bit in my workplace. I get asked the question that always strikes me on some level as a little bit offensive is when I've introduced someone, my name is Bracha, they say, "Oh, where are you from?" And it's always a little bit hard for me to hear because I'm from Australia. I was born here.
That's right.
But I know that's not generally, people aren't generally attempting to say, "Where are you from? You don't belong here." They're usually saying, "That's a name I haven't heard before.
That's right. Yeah.
What does that say about you?" And so the way I answer that question is I say, "Oh, it's a Hebrew name. I'm Jewish, and I was born here."
Yeah.
And in a similar vein, it's important to me not to make those people who ask me that question feel like they can't talk to me about anything about my identity, because I like to talk about it. I think it's a conversation worth having. And I don't have a problem with the word homophobia, but I do think that if you're coming to someone who identifies as GLBTI and you have questions, for your goodwill to be clear and for your goodwill to be acknowledged is very helpful in carrying a conversation forward.
Yeah, and it is about informing. It is about information, and with you take a young GLBTI person, say in an Orthodox Jewish school. Have there been movements there to sort of break down some of the structures that they might come up against? Their anonymity. How do they get around that?
From my memory of my high school experience, I don't think I could describe my high school experience as a place that was really safe for GLBTI students. I don't think it was actively unsafe and homophobic.
No.
But I think there's room in the Orthodox world to talk about how do you ensure that students who are grappling with their own sexual and gender identities, how do you confirm for them and communicate to them that who they are is okay, that there will be a place for them in their community, even if who they are is complicated within a religious context.
But in coming back to your point, that there is nowhere in the religious texts that Jews might refer to where it absolutely says that, yes, well, you must be afraid of homosexuals and you must whatever.
That's right, and there are explicit commandments in our text traditions to say you must welcome your fellow Jew and your fellow man, and you must not go out, not hurt your fellow human. So
absolutely, yes, to love and accept.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a major thing. So, okay, we've got this beautiful concept, and in fact, it's more than a concept; it's an actual operational activity, a reality.
That's right.
Of Galus Australis, and I've just looked at the clock, and I can see the time's running out. So I'm not going to go with that question. What I'm going to do is say thank you so much for coming and talking with us about this, Bracha, and extend to you the potential that once these new phases, particularly interface context that you're talking about, gets off the ground, will you come back and talk about it?
I would be delighted. Thank you, Norm.
Thank you very much. You've been watching Harmony and Diversity. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om.